Hi guys, welcome to the Gun Shop with me, John. Today we're going to be having a look at this, the WW Greener GP. So the Greener GP was made from 1922 to 1979. That's 57 years of production. However, WW Greener themselves say the last one was made in 1998, but that was much more likely to be a Webley model. So in terms of actually dating one of these, this can be done by the serial number or the proof mark. This particular one, 53684, actually runs in the 60s. It's probably worth mentioning that actually the serial number date and the proof mark date can be slightly different, purely because these things were batch made. So if they grabbed a box from the top or a box from the bottom, this was a human era. These things were made by men, English men. And as such, taking a box from the bottom instead of the top and screwing up the dates by a few years, hiding a box of actions out the back, that's just the way it was done. So without researching proof marks or anything like that, actually what you've got is a real era split across different things, and there's very obvious markings as to make when they were from. Firstly, chamber length. 2.5s were early and weren't a huge production run, and 2 3/4 were late. The Mark 1 was early, the Mark 2 was later. Things with stop screws were early, things with circlips that held these pins in place were late, and there's a lot of identifying features. This leads us into the fact there was a huge amount of models of these things, a huge number of models of the Greener GP, so there's a huge amount of variance. So this goes all the way from this, all the way to trap guns, police guns, military guns, short humane slaughtering guns, harpoon guns, all based off this same Martini action. So amongst those variations there are actually some crossover. So there was military ones converted back to civilian, and those will have an EP stamp on, or possibly even PG. One of the most popular variants of this was actually the Egyptian police model. The Egyptian police model had a different chamber that took a non-12 bore cartridge. This was so that you had a numbered amount of cartridges. If this gun was taken, they couldn't shoot 12 bore ammunition back at you. So here we have a Greener GB Mark II. At the back we have a ebonite Bakelite heel plate leading onto a straight hand walnut stock. I have seen Monte Carlo variants of this, which is quite smart. This is hand checkered in standard Greener flat point, very coarse checkering. It kind of screams the utilitarian use of this gun. The GP, standing for general purpose, is exactly what this is. This is the ultimate brush bush rough gun. So this leads on to our Martini action. The main reason that people still buy these guns isn't because they're particularly relevant in today's society, but it is because you get to scratch that Martini itch. Whether that's because you're a movie fan, a history fan, it is just a very pleasant action to use. The action is very simple. You push this down, this pushes the slide down and the extractor back. The cartridge goes in, you push it up, the safety goes off, you pull the trigger, bang. Push this down, and if you push it down hard, which actually they do not recommend, the safety comes on and the extractor extracts the cartridge. This action is blacked, you get blacked, you get electric blue. As they went through to the later ones, Webley even colour hardened a few of the actions, which is quite rare and quite delightful. Certainly one of the more popular parts of this gun is the fact that you can take this screw out here. If you loosen this off, push this down, you can actually remove the barrel. So this gun is almost semi-breakdown in the way it is, so you can get it quite compact. It's also relatively easy to clean for a Martini action anyway. The fore end is long with a slight taper, with again that hand flat point checkering. So the barrel, which is attached to the fore end through this little screw in the bottom here, comes in a variety of lengths. All the way, I believe, from 28 out to 36 inches. And they are notoriously tight choked in the pattern. Notoriously tight choked in the pattern, you know. If you speak to anyone who's owned one of these, certainly the old boys, they'll always tell you how I used to put a Coke can at 40 yards and all the pattern would go inside of it. That's probably an exaggeration, but as such is their reputation, so it's true. I mean, of course it's true. A lot of the reason they throw such a tight pattern is because a lot of these are actually bored at 719 as opposed to 729, meaning the actual bore is a bit tighter than usual. All barrels come blued, and actually, although this one is fixed choke, Greener GPs were one of the first UK gun brands to come successfully multi-choked. A last one on the Martini action, although, you know, it is not the fastest and a double will get that second shot going, somebody with a little bit of practice but not a huge amount of skill will get 20 rounds a minute out of this thing if you're pushing that lever down to really clear the shell out. They can be a little bit fussy on the cartridge you use, but on the whole, as long as you're using a fair quality or even a paper case, they run absolutely spectacularly. A final one, actually, when buying one of these, it's worth going through a little list of checks. It's probably the first and only time that you really need to take the barrel off, and that's to check that there's no pitting involved. Checking the wall thickness isn't particularly of an issue because these barrels were always very, very thick. They're always a very safe barrel, and hence they took a variety of food. You always put heavy loads through these, and although they would kick like a mule, they were very, very safe. So when you're taking that barrel off to inspect the pitting, make sure it doesn't wobble when it's on, doesn't wobble too much on the way off, and that thread is nice. Not particularly tight, but nice. Have a look, inspect, see if anyone's actually greased it, cleaned it when you've got that off. When the barrel's off, or even when it's not, just have a little look at this extractor, make sure it isn't cracked. If it's cracked, although there are spares available or it is repairable, you're not going to want to have to do that for the relative value of these guns. You can pick a bit of a dog rough one of these for about 50 quid, and something that's particularly nice will go all the way up to about 400 or 500. And if you have one of the rarer variants and or a license to own that rarer variant, there's some good money there to be had in these. So eventually the Greener factory was actually demolished and all the production kit was bought by Webley's. In the end, even Webley sold their kit off as they went bust, another company bought them, and production actually came to a halt. The Webley ones can be identified either by a colour hardened action or by a sort of a plum coloured action. It's because their blacking techniques just didn't go with the alloys that Greener was using for their actions, and subsequently they used for their actions too. So eventually an influx of Continental guns, cheaper guns, the fashion of over and unders, cheap semi-automatics, reliable semi-automatics in the 80s, you know, things like the Beretta 303 really coming to a fore in terms of a quality, cheap, rough gun, push these things out of production, or push these things out of viability for production, which is really sad because these really were a mainstay of our society for 80 years. I still really like them. I think everybody who owns a shotgun license or owns guns should own a Greener GP at one point or another. It's such an icon and you can't not be in love. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this. Every experience I've had with the Greener GP, and every time I pick one up, regardless of how poor the condition is, how much use it's had, or how much abuse it's had, leaves me with a smile on my face. You can't help but fall in love with these beautiful little things, purely for the variety, purely because it's something you can really geek out with without breaking the bank. You can own 1, 2 or 3, you can chop and change them. So does a single shotgun still have a place in our society? In reality, not a practical one. For those of us who enjoy shooting for more enjoyment or romantic reasons, this really is the gun for you. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Hi guys, welcome to the gun shop.